Well, hello again. Welcome to episode 5 of the Northeast Corner. We have another guest, but a unique episode as the Northeast Corner delves into their little interview series of musicians from Moray. I am joined by Cameron Simpson from Dead Sapien. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. Yeah, pretty dead. Just finished a set at the gym, so just
Oh
yeah,
man,
everything hurts. But
is it a good day down? Just to put things into context, you are formerly from Moray, but you now reside
yeah,
in Glasgow. Is it as good
yeah,
as
I've been
day
here.
down there, or outside? It's lovely here, man, but I'm not sure if it's different down south.
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed day today. We have some blue skies and that as well, but there is some overcast cloud and that as well. But if it holds for the Scotland game,
Yeah,
life
yeah,
is good.
totally, man. It's gonna be pandemonium, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Before we get into it, mate, I've actually got to apologize to you because the last time that we seen each other was 2 years ago, just before you moved to Glasgow. We did a podcast of a podcast of mine that kind of fell by the wayside and that. But we recorded an episode, right, and that never actually got exported and uploaded in that. Uh,
yeah.
and it wasn't my intention not to upload it. It's just when I was exporting it, my laptop broke, so I have to give you a quick apology that fell into the abyss. That episode, as it was quite good, but we'll make up for it today,
We
and
shall, or at
we've
least
got
try to anyway.
we've got plenty of things to talk about. So let's jump right into it. I'm very excited for this. So basically, my first question is, tell me a bit about your early life. Where you grew up. Your story through school and stuff. And in specific, can you remember the first experience moment of music that you seen or were a part of, so on, that made you want to pursue music?
Yeah. So I reckon again, growing up, well, say where we're both from, um, there was having friends and that as well, and seeing kind of them playing guitar and that as well. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So whenever I was around their house, I was picking up the guitar and trying to learn "Smoke in the Water." Like I think like everyone
Yeah,
tries to do that as
I
well.
think I
It's
think
like
everyone's had a go at that on the guitar, but
that's it. It's like I'm a fucking god because I'm 9 years old and I can play dun dun
yeah,
dun.
yeah,
I'm not gonna do any more for copyright reasons, but
yeah,
uh,
for sure. Appreciate it.
apparently they're so bad for that as well. But yeah, I think it was that. I was like 9, I think, years old, and my parents' friend was emigrating to Australia, and I had like this like little like kiddie acoustic guitar. And when he was emigrating to Australia, he was like, "Oh, would Cameron like this guitar?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, cool." So it was like this like knockoff red Fender Strat, So like they had that there as well. The amp was like horrible, and like, me and my mates would like try and like jam on it and that as well. He would like, I think at the time, one of my friends, Thomas, was playing Seven Nation Army. I remember this like a nine, and then he's like, "Oh, this is how you play it." And I sucked. I was like, "What?" And I stopped for a few years there, and I think it was when I was about 11 or 12, during like first year of high school. It was when they were doing like the trials for who gets lessons and who doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Tryouts.
and that's it. And I sucked, and they were like, "Oh yeah, cool, you're not good enough for lessons." And I was like, "I'll show you."
Yeah, man.
so
I
so I
think
think that's what that.
that kind of not rejection, but that kind of setback can be used as motivation, right? And not just music, but definitely in most things in life, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. It's like with those obviously like those tryouts, it was more for like who's got initial kind of talent, rather than those that are willing to work on something
Yeah,
like a
put the work
skill. and
in,
and
100%.
and I think that's the definition there as well. So obviously, like at that point there, I kind of like dove down the rabbit hole of like learning tabs for years. And as that kind of went on, just slowly kind of got better and better, and then done music studying for a couple of years um, at high school. It's like standard grade kind of stuff there as well. Just kind of playing like rock and metal stuff, and everyone like hated it. Like in the class, they were like more like your classic indie types that were
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
into Oasis, Stone Roses, and that as well, which is cool. But like at the time, I was like, "Oh God, Alter Bridge," and they were like, that's pish, mate. And I'm like, "No, it's good. Like it's
Yeah,
technical as hell." At the time, and yeah, just I think that spawned there as well. And when I was younger, like there was that kind of dream of like you know, like when you're young, you're like, I want to be a rock star, and
Yeah.
as you get a bit older, you're like, what does that actually mean in that as well now? So, um, obviously there was that, but also being, you know, raised in a family that likes to play it safe in that as well. You know, like my stepdad, he's an engineer. My mum's an optician in that as well. You know, very supportive in that as well. But I think at the time when you're growing up, they want you to go to like a safe path. Um, so again, I went away for, you know, 3 years and studied electrical engineering to begin with. Um, didn't like the course that much. I think I kind of done it for like that whole thing where it was like you're trying to build a safe. It's like, oh, cool. Like when you build the safe option, you can then like create risk, and that's just not how life works, unfortunately. You know, I ended up getting my degree and then working in an industry for a couple of years, and I was fucking miserable. The money was good and it kind of like, you know, going up and up and up, but um, I was just spending it equally as fast on shit that I didn't really need, or, you know, on toxic things such as like, you know, like nights out or shit food.
Yeah. Go hand in hand, those things, right?
That's it. And then I think it was, again in the back of my head, I was in bands in between. You know, like I was in a friend of mine's band, The Suede, at the time, and I was like working alongside the two there, and also like a few other kind of various projects over the years of this time as well. But music was always something that was kind of like a fun, an aspect of escapism, and it was always something that like I was trying to like go into. But I think at the same time there was always that kind of like weight of like, oh, like you've set yourself in this like safe role and you have to try and like balance the two together. Um and I think it was, yeah, about 2.5 years ago, shit, 2.5 years ago, where my uncle Willie passed away at like 93. He lived a full life, but like funerals always got me in like this like reflective mode, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like this is a job for life, and you're not making any change, and it's uncomfortable staying in the same spot. So at that point there, I think I went into work the next Monday because it was like over the weekend,
Mhm.
and you know, I told my work that I was cool, like I'm unhappy with my current job role, and they were like, cool, we're unhappy that you're unhappy, and I was like, yeah, it was just like, all right, cool.
It's just, I'm
Uh,
leaving. I'm leaving via mutual consent.
well, the thing is, I didn't at the time, but it was just like expressing my kind of feelings of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, well, we're unhappy that you're unhappy, but like you've not done anything wrong, so we
Hmm.
can't necessarily fire you." And I was like, "So where are we going? Where do we go from here?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm going to try like save some cash, and I'll let you guys know well in advance." And it was like a very tense kind of, you know, 3 months dealing with like HR back and forth, like when you leave, and I'm like, when I save some money up, and then eventually we got to the point where we kind of reached an agreement where um, they were like, cool, like if we offer you mutual redundancy, would you um, take leave? And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. So at that point there, I got like a little severance package, and I was like, cool, like what now? You know, because again, like you've been working so long to this point that you thought you wanted, but it wasn't necessarily what you wanted. It was just what was safe and what was there, and
Hmm.
what you could do.
It wasn't. It wasn't what you wanted yourself, but maybe what the society wanted you to do. I know that sounds a bit kind of cynical, but you know,
Yeah,
like you said, like there's just to touch back on when you said when you start. I know when you know when people played Smoke on the Water and that in school and that, but it's a very powerful thing in whatever you do when you apply yourself to something and you actually like improve or get a success on it. Like there is no like the first time you ever experience that is probably like some of the biggest euphoria that you'll ever experience in your life. And I appreciate you saying that there was a period of where you were kind of in a middle ground. You were doing both, but maybe I don't want to say normal life or whatever, but you know, work for work's sake was maybe taking a bit more of the time away from music, and you made a conscious decision to kind of put. I always have a respect for people that take risks, right? Because we will never get anywhere without taking risks in life, right? And I think especially when it's in your head constantly that you know that you want to pursue this, it can't go away. You're thinking about it consistently and constantly, and I appreciate what you did, man. I think it's um, you know very I don't want to say brave because you're very good at what you do and stuff like that, and we'll talk about your music and that as we go on and so forth. But yeah, man, thanks for giving us the whole lowdown of start to beginning and how it kind of came to the current point of where you're at now. So when as kind of early days of being a musician or pursuing music, if you will, I would imagine. I remember seeing you at an open mic at a local venue about 5-6 years ago, something like that. And I would imagine that was quite I mean, I'm not a musician myself, obviously, but I would imagine early days and being in a remote area like Moray is, I would imagine that was something that you and obviously other musicians have to just kind of consistently do to try and get people to just hear your performance of anything.
I mean, I think there was a period, I think 5-6 years ago, where again this was like when I was trying to break into singing and playing guitar at the same time, because before that I was just purely guitar. I was working on that, and I could do both kind of isolated, but like I was always trying to like kind of work on my vocal technique and stuff there as well, to try and like refine that as well and tie the two together and building kind of confidence around the two there as well. So like local open mic nights definitely did help with that as well, and there was a very kind of supportive community when the beach bar was still intact.
May it rest in peace.
Yeah, may it rest in peace, RIP. But yeah, like I think it was every second week there was like an open mic night, and like there'd be like 30 or 40 people to show up at this thing. It was a great community in that as well, and it was awesome. I think these last kind of few years there's been a severe decline in a want for, well, sorry, not there probably is still a want, but there's less venues than what there was 5 years ago. Either by freak accidents such as the beach bar burning down, or just with it not being financially feasible. And so like again, I think the Druthies stopped doing that a lot. Well, I don't think the Druthies coming back in Elgin, but I couldn't tell you, but they stopped doing gigs.
Oh wow, I never knew that, because they were like one of the main places to like put on local bands and stuff like that on like weekends when everyone was in and stuff like that. So I'm surprised to hear that, but I don't know, has that maybe got anything to do with the kind of current climate of things in the world?
So this was like pre-COVID. I'm not sure if it's coming back after COVID. I think at the start of COVID they prioritized more of their efforts towards Fade Knocks.
Oh yeah, because they're owned by the same people, aren't they? Yeah.
Owned by the same people. But yeah, no, I think they stopped that like 6 months before the actual pandemic actually kind of happened there as well. I think it was more just you could gain more kind of profit from having a fine restaurant experience, or I think the comedy nights and that as well were more successful. Whereas with some of the band shows and that as well, although they were great and it was bringing artists there as well. I mean, like Lewis Capaldi was originally scheduled to play there a few years back.
I remember you telling me that on the episode that never got aired, so I'm glad that you brought that up again. Did you say Tom Walker as well? Is that the guy's name that was did a performance there, I think, as well?
Yeah, the guy that done Leave a Light On. Yeah. He played there like 3 years ago and that as well, and I got chatting to him like after one of the shows and that as well. There's been a lot of like people that have like swung by that place and that as well, and it's a shame to kind of see these places kind of dwindle out. But equally so, I feel like that even in the last kind of 5 years, there's been more of a push for online, like online and selling yourself that way, and putting yourself in front of people there. It's probably more difficult as well because again, you're fighting against an algorithm, and with that as well, it's like if people aren't really engaging with what you're posting, it's going to get put lower and lower on the shelf there as well.
The momentum aspect's a big thing of the online kind of community, isn't it?
Yeah, it's and community is the other thing there as well. Again, I read a lot of like marketing stuff, so like stuff like Seth Godin as a prime example, where he goes into aspects of not focusing on mass, but focusing on like your smallest viable market. So like creating like a small community of like diehard fans. Not worrying about like, oh cool, this is going to be like massive. It's like cool, I have 100 people that would like that are killing to watch this next episode of this podcast, for example, or waiting for this next single. It's prioritizing that over just being like, oh, everyone wants this, because again, by like settling for kind of average, no one's really kind of happy. You know,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
making it
You're not
yeah,
enjoying it anymore again. Yeah, I think we kind of get a bit obsessed with quantity over quality when it comes to like media stuff. The mind can be a bit corrupted if, um, let's just say one day you have you know 1,000 listeners, and then maybe the next day something happens and you have 15,000, and that's like a massive jump, and it's something that a lot of people, just with the human mind in general, can sometimes it can just be too much, and it's such a euphoric effect that it becomes more of an obsession about that rather than the reason why you started it in the first place. So I get what you're saying, man. I think that's it's very good advice to, because you obviously you want to pursue this because you enjoy it, right? That is the main thing, and it's something that I think people sometimes forget, right? Because like I just said, they can get caught up on the other side of, oh, I've got to have this many people. I know I need to make this work, because then it's kind of becoming work for work's sake again, right?
yeah. And I think that this is the thing as well. It's like in 2021 as well. Um, it's a lot more difficult to make money as a band, purely for the fact that like obviously no one's really buying um, or downloading. It's almost like a stream market there as well. You know, solo artists and even like duos and that as well, and having maybe like a live band do like live shows that way. Fair enough, but again, also with COVID, everything's down there and that
Yeah.
as well. Um, but I think that's the thing as well. We got so caught up in the aspect of making a band the only source of income, and then when things don't go well, like like your release doesn't get you know viral recognition, it only maybe gets like 500 streams,
Mm.
and then at that point you're like, oh well, we worked so hard and we spent so much money on this. It's like, yeah, but still, like the fact is you've launched it, and maybe the reason that it's not maybe not done so well is that you're maybe reaching out to the wrong people, or it's not clicking with the people that you want to reach out to, and it's maybe like taking it back to the drawing board and be like, cool, like how can we make the next one, the next project, something even bigger and elevate it so that like people are continually entertained. And it's again, it's maybe not like a case of like making songs every week. It's more like maybe like making a song every like 2-3 months, but then fill in the in between stuff like with like interesting videos, behind the scenes stuff that's purely applicable to the artist or the band there as well, so that people are engaged with them as people, because as long as it's genuine as well, because again, people I think now are they've almost got like this detector where they sense bullshit. It's like
Yeah, definitely.
that's yeah,
They can
it's like they're sorry.
they can see a lack of authenticity, and I think it's just because it's something you can't really fake a lot of the time. It's one of like, people can be good liars and stuff like that, but in terms of like content and stuff that you make and what you put out there, I don't think you can ever kind of act that and relate to people through acting that. It just seems quite impossible. It seems like you said, I think there's like a defense mechanism in people's minds that knows that, BS. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you think
it's like cool. Like, I'm sorry.
uh do you think Spotify and SoundCloud and stuff like that, do you think that's changed the game pretty much indefinitely, in terms of, it used to be like maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, the way to do it, like we were just talking about, was like live performance locally, and if to get into major success, it was like record deals and record companies and stuff like that. But obviously with Spotify and SoundCloud, you get monetized through them now, and obviously it makes a lot easier for people just to put music out there.
Um, yeah. So again, I think the previous way was like bands would hit the road, they would launch songs in between, and obviously like they would kind of like build momentum through online shows. I think now it's kind of flipped the other way around, where it's like, cool, like you build up more of your online following first, and your diehard fans that way, um but and then based off of that you can use Spotify's demographics to see who's listening, what their age bracket is, and whereabouts they're listening in the world, and basing off that information, planning tours that way, as opposed to just like being like, oh cool, we're just gonna like hit the road all the time. Again, if you have like, as you kind of focus on the main areas first, and then if your budget allows it at the time, try reach out to these lesser areas that like that are on your statistics that way, and try and make a few more fans that way, because you never know, maybe like those like 5 people that are listening in um Bavaria, Germany. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe maybe like you're like, oh cool, like we're in Germany anyway. Like how about we take a risk? We maybe like put a bit more money for fuel so that we can get down there. 5 people may show up, but they may bring a friend each, and that's like 10 more people there as well. And there is still that word of mouth there as well. People still love going to gigs and that as well. When we can get them back open.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there's so many more mediums than just live now and that as well, and it's a great opportunity for that as well. But I think it's like continual sustained momentum, and this is me like quoting Jesse Cannon. If anyone who's like into like music and marketing, he's definitely worth a check out. He's got like a YouTube channel where he goes all into this. But continual sustained promotion is essentially just like you've got like a cycle of something. So like if you're an up and coming artist, for example, you plan it so that you've got about 2 years worth of singles planned out each, roughly like 6 to 8 weeks, and then in the in between points, you launch stuff like a lyric video, a visualizer, the official video in between there as well, and focusing on like smaller posts in between, so that people are constantly engaged there as well. Because people like oh yeah, this band's playing my local town, but I don't know much about them. What are they got to do first? Just because of the area we're in, they're going to check social media. They're going to be like, oh cool, when was the last time they posted anything? Or and it sounds so artificial, like talking about this and that as well. But unfortunately, it's just the world that we're kind of in now. It's like it's not as people they'll do their own research first and be like, is this band for me as an identifier, rather than like
just listening
being told
to
this is,
yeah.
Because I think that's the thing as well now with everything from like music to business. It's like people like we're not being told it's like this is what you should listen to. It's like here is what you want. Like here's like what you like potentially, and you get to pick who you want to listen to and why, and you speed off that as well. And I think with that it makes it a lot more personal, rather than I mean there is still obviously like charts.
Or something, yeah.
There are still charts, there is still radio and all that as well, and there will still be that kind of push for mass and number one songs and that as well, equally. So that's cool, but there's so much more choice out there, and I suppose in that as well there is also noise, but it's more of a reason to try and be better on areas beyond just the music. I mean, the music is a crucial part, but it's everything else in between. It's like cool, like if you're if someone's filming a live show, are you standing still on stage, or are you moving around and giving people an experience there? Obviously, this isn't really applicable to now, but it's like if you're in the studio, for example, and like you've got a good connection between the bandmates, are you sharing that as well? So that's like, oh, cool. These are just like dudes that just like to chill out, have fun in that as well. But when it comes to like playing songs, dudes smash it or girls smash it. Either way. But it's thinking of like all these things as well, and I'm talking about this like like I'm doing it, but like again I'm still miles off from getting to where I want to be with it with anything, I suppose. But it's having that kind of thought pattern and being aware of that, rather than just being like, oh, I'm going to post this because everyone else is posting this that's in the band.
Not just thinking down the road and round the corner and down the next road kind of mentality. I like it, man.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that you were in a band for a bit, Dissuade. I just wanted to like touch on your time in that group. So if I remember correctly, it was you, Fian, McCarran, and Josh. If I remember, there might have been another band member that I name slips my mind. Apologies.
Yeah, it's cool. So it was Fian, Josh, this guy called Henry Lappington, and it was originally those three guys there as well. And I think at the time, they were more like acoustic based, and they were wanting to go full band. And at that point there, I just kind of bought a bass. Again, I played mostly guitar, but like some of the money was coming in, so I was like, you know what, I'll invest in the bass. And I was just like practicing away, and they were like, oh, would you like to play bass for us? And that as well, we're thinking about like going full band and kit and extending up that way. And I think at that point there, Josh was planning on, well, he did go to Germany for a brief period of time, and we got in gas at that point in there as well, and we then kind of broke into like this like indie kind of alternative kind of style band. It was just a couple of years of playing gigs, having parties, and the recordings are awful. But like It definitely kind of like I think kind of shaped my desire to like pursue something bigger, because again with I suppose like local bands and that as well, as you're kind of starting out, um it's making sure that everyone's on the same page there as well. And with us over time, we all had different expectations, and with that different difference in expectations, it causes indifference, and then it just naturally took its own way. I mean, like when we recorded um the second EP, which was like my introduction to production, which kind of made me want to dive deeper, because again, they're okay, but they're not amazing. They're not great. um, the point got across, but it was like, all right, cool. Like I need to like put in some serious work, and it was that kind of focus originally, like for recording the band. But then again, the more I dove into production, the less I really, had time to, have the same interest for the band, and it got to the point where I was like, cool, like I'm gonna just focus on this because I want to do this, and I left. I think I left a few, 2-3 years ago, I think it was, and that as well. And since then, like they've I think they've kept something going with like Bean McCarran and the overnights. They're no longer Dissuade, but it's that there as well, and they're still doing their own thing there as well, which is pretty sick.
And just to clarify, it wasn't like you left on bad terms, or there was like a massive fallout or anything like that.
No, we're still really good mates in that as well. But like we could see that, like just with that indifference, it was causing friction. Just like I suppose, it's
just
like
stopping it before it kind of got to something major, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, even then, it was just like petty squabble stuff, And I think, the biggest thing is like I think no one went to stick and no one went to walk away. And at the time, it was just one of those scenarios where it was best for me just to like be like, all right, cool, throw my hands up and be like, this isn't, for me, I need to like move on to the next thing, and that's equally cool. And yeah, there like again, just like since then as well, like I worked on a couple of Fiends productions. I've done Goodbye, and I've done Blood Red. Oh, sorry. I've done Blood Red, and he's been kind of doing his own things there. So at that point there, I went to Glasgow and that as well, and started kind of studying it as well, or was a music college, and just kind of do my own thing for a bit. COVID hit for a bit, and I kind of went under the radar. Just momentum kind of lost everything there as well, and now kind of into 2021, end of 2020, I've been kind of trying to reestablish myself and get going.
One last thing about Dissuade. I'm wondering if you remember this time. I remember mentioning of the beach bar again. I was in there one night, and you came in and Dissuade. I just released a single or something like that, or one of the EPs. And I remember you showing me that it was an Australian radio station or a radio station in America had played it, and that was like quite surreal because it was on like literally like on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I think that was Henry that scoped them out, because he went deep into like oh yeah, cool, trying to find places like further to try and get like wider reach there as well, and just kind of plant some seeds. But again, I think with that, like we thought it was like, oh, that's hot shit, we kind of made it. But then even then, I think that's just like immaturity and time, and as you kind of grow with music and that as well, it's like, all right, cool, like how can we weren't really focusing on making things better, we're just focusing on egos more than anything else as well.
It's that kind of euphoric feeling again, like we were talking about earlier.
And that can be very dangerous in that as well. It's, don't get me wrong, it's celebrating the highs when the highs are good, but it's also being like, all right, cool, this is just a moment in time, and it's like take your 2-3 days if you want to do that, and time to move on to the next thing. And when I say that as well, this is like I think with a lot of achievements, like again, like I've just like done my second year and got myself a name, and folks are like, oh, well done. I'm like, yeah, cool, like I'm already on to the next. Like it I think if you kind of dwell on
your success,
hitting a target, and that as well, it's like you stagnate, and there's
can't improve after that.
Yeah, or even just finding new and alternative stuff in there as well. You could be like, all right, cool, like I'm gonna try and like learn this next thing for this next song, or I'm gonna, if it's like podcasting, it's being like, all right, cool, I'm gonna like dive a bit more into the audio realm and look into like how compression works and like the fundamentals of EQ, so that I can, improve the overall audio, just whatever it may be in that as well. It's like, cool, this podcast was cool, but like, how can we make this even better over time? And I think that's the hard thing as well, because we see like these, like for example, podcasts. Like we see like these like amazing podcasts, and chances are, there's a team working on it there as well.
There's a lot bigger budget, but our instant thought is like, we need to be that.
Immediate, like right now, and it's like, oh, like you'll get there, dude. But like, just
perseverance,
I suppose, yeah. And that's like anything, but I think that's the problem with like our society as well. Like, we're kind of now at this point where we just want everything now. It's like we don't want to put in the work. I mean, with certain things, it's working smarter, but I think with like core skills that take time and patience, anything that can't be achieved in like 5 minutes, our attention spans go like that, and it's like, oh, like I want to go into the next thing, and then we can get lost in this almost like rat race.
And then we don't really kind of we kind of lose ourselves as a person of what do I actually want to do, because I've tried so many things and applied the same kind of method to it and never set on anything. But you make a good point, and I think a big reason behind that is because of what we're big digitally now in society. Of a lot of information that we receive is digitally, like YouTube and so on and so forth. And all, like, you always see, like in, like you mentioned with big podcasts, or I guess you could apply to anything. We don't really see the journey, right? We just see the stuff that they have and think, oh well, they must have just done that from the beginning. Do you know what I mean? And they didn't ever work on things, or make mistakes and struggle and improve and all that. So I think it's quite a reflection of just seeing, okay, they've got a podcast, and where their podcast is at now, or like I said with music, where their band's at now, and just kind of thinking, I just need to get to that as quick as possible, which is just, it's pretty self-destructive, really.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing as well. It's like with that expectation of getting there, it's like, even if you do, right, have you kept to like what you said you were going to achieve? Because like you can get there potentially like a lot faster by doing like things that appeases people, but then you're like, what has this turned into? And then you don't enjoy it anymore, and then it becomes a thing that like you're like, again, it's like it's having that, I suppose, like a continual conversation with yourself as you are climbing up this ladder, and being like, am I still on track, or have I like taken an alternative route here, and I need to like shift things back in? Because you could get to that point where it's like, all right, what started off as something, and don't get me wrong, progression happens, and like there is going to be like, where people start off is not going to be where they're going to end up in 5 years if they continue to work on this. That's a given. But I think so long as it's kind of true to where they align with at that moment in time, you're on the right track there as well. But I think focusing on what other people want more than anything else is going to end up with people getting to that point where they're like, okay, cool, like it's relatively successful, but I can't. I've not got the energy or the willpower to do this for too long. It fatigues you in that as well, and then it becomes a burden rather than something that you enjoy doing, and you lose yourself in what I think it's Mahaly calls flow state, where it's like time is irrelevant, and you just get lost in the task itself.
For sure. A pretty simple question next. What I this sounds a bit of a redundant question, but I would imagine there's probably things that I see from the outside that maybe aren't so much what they are. What are like the small differences, aside from obviously solo and being in a band? What are the main differences between going solo and being in a band that people might not expect?
I suppose with a band, if it's a band that like everyone's kind of on the same wavelength, or even a couple members on the same wavelength, you have a lot more resources, so you can be like, all right, this person is designated towards these areas, and you begin to work more like a team. Equally so, there's a lot more conflict management and resolution there as well, because again, people are emotional beings in that as well, and as things misalign, they cause friction there as well, and you have to deal with that, which can take longer. Whereas I suppose being a solo artist, there's a lot more responsibility on you as the individual, and although you can make decisions faster with like, all right, cool, this is the direction we're going to go. I think equally so, because you've now got a second voice giving you feedback all the time, it can sometimes cause option paralysis. You're like, do I go this way? Do I go this way? Do I go this way? And it's sometimes nice to have someone be like, cool, like that's all right, but like where's this path going to go? You're like, you're absolutely right. I need to go somewhere where there's
reassuring to get a second opinion sometimes.
Yeah, it's nice to get a second opinion in that as well. Or if you are kind of going solo, making sure that you've got like an external circle that isn't necessarily maybe like, like making the executive calls, but like you can rely on for counsel. This whole aspect of maybe finding friends or mentors that are in this kind of general circle and what you're chasing after, and they will provide you with honest feedback. This when you're starting out as well, like your friends will be like, oh, that's great. I'd much rather have someone say like, all right, cool, like this part's right, but when you jump into this transition, it sounds like dog shit. And I'm like, all right, cool, like I'll need to like work on this section, or like like so maybe like less intense than that. It's just like, all right, cool, like makes sense, great, but then when this transition happens, it loses the energy, and then I'm like, all right, cool, I need to like reshape the lyrics or like stuff like that as well. Like like I remember like when I was doing For All That Have Fallen, the outro section, the lyrics I think were reworked 8 or 9 times, like just like rewritten. I was like, all right, cool, like I'll try this, and I was like, that's too much information that I'm spitting out in this section, and it's like drawing too much attention to too much element, which might throw people off. And then I was like, all right, cool, like try this. All right, now the phrasing's off, and it's like having that kind of evaluation. But like each and every time I was sending this off to my friends and being like, all right, cool, like how about now? And they're like, nah, no, and like, oh shit, that's cool. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like again, I set myself a time restraint with that as well. So I was like, cool, like because otherwise, like it's that whole classic quote where it's like, art is not finished, it's only some you only surrender to art, you don't ever really complete it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think if we wanted to hit perfection with art, we'd never release it, because we always tend to like overthink things before release and always think that we can improve on it. I think I seen actually a documentary a few years ago of the South Park team, right, and they were about to release an episode, and Trey Parker, who's one of the creators of South Park, was telling them not to release it because he thought it was that bad, and it became like one of the most successful episodes in the show's history. So it just shows like no matter like what level or what industry that you reach and are in, I think people are always kind of have that internal anxiety of like, oh no, I can do better with that.
And I think that's the thing as well, because at the end of the day, with putting stuff out there, you're making yourself vulnerable, because again, like you're expressing your thoughts, you're expressing your emotions, maybe that as well, or whatever it may be. That's going out into the world to be judged by people or people you don't know, and you've just got to be there open arms, be like, what do you guys think? And they like equally so. Like I think it's like having like I think you mentioned it's having like the bravery to be like, or the courage to be like, you know what, despite this, like it was a cool learning experience. I done this, and was the message achieved with what I was doing? Yeah, cool. Is everyone gonna like it? Probably not. But so long as like someone's like, oh, you know what, that's cool. Like I really like that song, or I like that episode of South Park, or whatever it may be. Just focusing on kind of like the balance of that as well, and where there is maybe like negative comment where it's like, oh cool, that wasn't really for me, and it was like, well, what necessarily didn't you like about it? And it was like, oh well, it's just a bit too heavy. I'm like, well, that's what it is. So like that's cool. Maybe I'll launch a softer song down the line, but just now it's just like, all right, cool, like I was going for that to convey these emotions, and using like the voice this way to create this tone and stuff. So like it's kind of taking feedback with a pinch of salt as well, being like, you'd be like, oh, it was too heavy. Why weren't you singing clean? And it's like, well, I could have sung clean if I want to, but I was trying to like build this idea of frustration again with For All That Have Fallen, for example. It was that kind of duality of just like, same again with Been a While as well, but it was just the duality of like the verses where it's like high energy, it's amplifying that feelings of like frustration and tension where you're like, you're getting bombarded for like 30 seconds or so, and then it's like you get the release and then the punch, which is clean melodics, that kind of punch in there as well, and thinking of that as well for like to make a more engaging experience there as well. Yeah, I think that's like super important there as well, is maintaining that um mystery almost, where it's like people aren't really predicting where things are going.
Yeah. And I think that's why music's so subjective, right? Because, like you said, it is expressing emotions and that, and everyone's emotional build-up is different. So I think a lot of people try to think like, why don't I like that? It must be their music rather than, oh well, maybe that's just not for me because I don't feel the same way as the musician that made the actual track or single or EP or album, whatever, felt themselves.
Yeah, man. And that's cool as well. I mean, like if it's stuff like cool, like you need to work on your guitar playing. I was like, yeah, you know what, I do. Or like you're like it's stuff like that, which again should be kind of more brought up with like pre-pro and production there as well, and the vibe as well is like because sometimes like you want to go for a bit more of a sloppier kind of style. It all kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. But I think clarity of vision is something that needs to be maintained regardless of what it is you're chasing after, whether it's art, whether it's goals, whether it's anything. It's and that's I'm saying this like it's easy because but again, like life gets in the way, and then all of a sudden like you go into autopilot because again our brains don't really want to think, they just want to do
Yeah.
for the most part. And you can end up like like losing sight of clarity because you're not maintaining a regular habit of checking up on yourself and being like, cool, like I've been going on autopilot for the last 2 weeks and I have not achieved a single thing that I was going to achieve. I suppose holding yourself accountable a little bit and be like, you know what, like you like what either like is there a reason why like this is happening, or is it just like like you just like ignored it and your brain just went into autopilot? And it's because I think that's the thing as well, like as you I suppose mature and as you learn new information, the things that you wanted maybe 2-3 years ago become totally different things as it evolves and that as well now. um and it's kind of like regularly checking, giving yourself that your own feedback loop where it's just like, cool, I'm on track, or like I've maybe lost focus temporarily, but this isn't a big deal. I can just like you know I maybe just like stop my to-do list for a few weeks, so I need to like re-get back on that to begin with, so that I gain more structure. And again, finding things that work for you as an individual, whether you're um someone that needs more structure, or someone that you know likes doing everything in the morning and then has the rest of the day off. It's finding kind of what works for each individual person, which does take time as well, um, and even focusing on maybe food and sleep and nutrition, because again, without these elements there as well, it's you're not giving your brain the best chance
Yeah,
to
exactly.
process like complex cognitive thinking, which again can cause you to lose clarity there as well, because if you had a bad night's sleep, or you've maybe not been hitting your calorie debt, count, or you've just been feeding your body with, bad food, or even just not exercising, for example, where the blood's pumping, you're getting either testosterone and stuff like that as well, or stuff like that. You're not being, I suppose, your most present self, and if you're not in the present, you're coasting almost.
Yeah, most definitely. I wanted to get your thoughts. I know that you now reside in Glasgow and that now, but before you left in that, obviously you were quite heavily involved around local gigs and that, as we were speaking out earlier. What do you think about Murray's current music scene? There's quite a lot of bands and solo acts coming up now that I'm noticing.
Um, this is gonna sound bad, but like I've actually not been really keeping up with the most part. I think obviously I know that Fian has got his own little solo thing with the overnights. I think I've heard of the Zebex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think you're kind of more you know more of your scene more than anything else, because it's happening around you there as
Yeah,
well.
most definitely.
And I think with it, it's cool to see like I suppose like a new rise of bands kind of resurging, or um, doing that as well. But I think so long as they keep their egos in check, that's something that like is massive in that as well. Because again, despite working in the local zone and that as well. It's thinking just bigger than the area. It's like, all right, cool. Like, how can we go, and be recognized around Scotland, or even further afield than that as well, and thinking just bigger than the hometown
expansion,
romanticization. Yeah, thinking of that, but like again, making it very specific to people that would be interested. Yeah.
Obviously, you've got like New Mode and Bad Actress and all that are out there as well. So I wanted to touch on your recent releases as well. We'll start with you've already kind of touched on For All That Have Fallen, but we'll start with Been a While. I remember you put up on the Dead Sapien Facebook page that it was coming out, and that's why I went and checked out on Spotify. I actually had it on loop, man. I had it on loop for a day. I really, really enjoyed it. And my take on it was, and I think you kind of touched on this earlier, there's a very kind of I don't know the right terminology for this, so I'm just going to have a crack at it, but like a wave flow of where there's a really like aggressive part of the song, and like like that emphasis of frustration and stuff, and then there's like a calmness in the chaos, when it's it comes down a bit and then it goes back and it switches back and forth, and I really like that aspect of it. Can you tell me a bit about the work that you had and the idea behind that song?
Absolutely, but could I ask a massive favor first? Let's go just before we proceed on.
Sure.
Could we pause the video for 2 seconds just so I can go to the bathroom?
Yeah, no worries, dude. And we're back. There we go.
And we're back. Yeah, so been a while. Yeah, that started as an idea back in January. It started with I was on a video call with someone, and I wasn't really paying attention. I wasn't really cognizant of the conversation. I was just like there, and I was just playing on the guitar, and I came up with the initial chorus riff, and I was kind of more focused on that than actually the conversation. And I think the way that the conversation was kind of going, it was more of a reflection of like how the last kind of few months had been, and basically in those kind of few months there as well, it was a case of in October I lost my job, which meant I could no longer kind of financially afford the place I was staying in. So I had to like move place to a cheaper place, and just like look for work at the same time just to like sustain, just like to stay afloat in that as well. So it was like basically 3 months of like continual just like trying to make my money try to work for me there as well. Again, I was also like student loan was coming in, but I was on like the lowest kind of student loan in that as well. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, the first thing I need to do is apply for a bigger loan there as well. So done that as well, and also like move place, and just like everything that was going on in there as well. I was just like, so much shit was going on, and I was just like, right. And when you're in like the thick of the storm, you're not really like worried. You're not like thinking like, oh no, this paralyzes me. It was like I just need to like keep digging my way out of this almost, and again, it was just like 3 months of that, and I think that was like the clarity moment where it was like, fucking hell, it's been and that, and also like my girlfriend was going back to Australia at the time, and it was just one of those things where it was like, fuck, so much shit has happened in 3 months, and I have not taken a second to process this. And it was that whole thing where it's like, I've been putting on a strong face and just getting on with it, but like I was able to achieve quite a lot in that 3 times to stay afloat in there as well. And been a while, I suppose, like that kind of tribute to that as well, where it's cool if I'm going through something like this during this pandemic, chances are there's thousands, or if not more, of people going through like similar situations to a certain degree, whether that's like cool, they've lost their job, so like they've got to like sell their house or maybe move back in with their parents or vis-a-vis. And it was more just like, and it feels like like it's been so long since we've had a win. It was really and it was that kind of whole thing where we're just diving into that, and I was like, all right, cool, if it's that confident, and because again, like like you're just like you're focused so much on just like everything that you're not really like focusing on anything, you're just like existing almost, and it's that whole thing where like you need another win to keep you sane, because like the year just kind of felt like, especially with like the lockdown happening as well around Christmas time, it was just
that was like a massive punch in the gut, right?
And it was just like everything there, and it was just like cool, like we need to win, but like it's people putting on brave faces despite all this and that as well, and you know, rather and not opening up dialogue to discuss how they're maybe truly feeling at the time. You know, I'm fortunate that I had, you know, a strong support network that I could, you know, express myself and chat to, and we could share each other's, you know, burdens and that as well. But there's, you know, many that didn't have that luxury and have unfortunately, taken their own lives as a result of that. And it was really an addressing of that. You know, like the room that I'm in just now, the last tenant unfortunately took his own life back in October, and yeah, heavy shit, man. And this is the whole thing. That the first two singles are essentially themed around and partially dedicated to him. You know, it's that whole thing where it's trying to be a voice for those that feel like they don't have a voice, or that they can't express themselves there as well. So again, that was like the inner monologue, but the verses are much more of a depiction of, I suppose, social media in terms of like how people are living their best lives, and on the when they're probably only living like fairly okay lives, but they're just posting the best things there as well.
The lack of authenticity that people show online and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's seeing the best side there as well, or even like with like sharing kind of stories and that as well, especially stuff like regarding kind of mental health. It's like if your friend was to call you in tears, or you know, like you sense something was off, are you dropping stuff to go and see them and make sure they're okay? And I would like to hope that people that are sharing these things would, but you just get the impersonation that people are, you know, sharing events or stuff just because it's trendy and everyone else is doing so as well, thinking that it's making a difference rather than actually like focusing on the things that you can control, such as, you know, like your small circle, or just trying to like find things that work for you, whether that be like routines or, you know, just trying to like get out of bad habits through, you know, continual work. So yeah, that was kind of more being a while, and it was an addressant to everything else in between there as well. Just there, and for all that fall, and it's kind of like a continuation almost of the story. But tying more into the themes of like the digital world, where it's you know, it's like with like us being on this like cusp of like the pandemic, climate change, and everything there as well. And although people are like so consumed on sharing stuff and that as well, it's like focusing on like the aspect of you know, mental health around that as well, and how we can just try and process everything as well. Like, you know, we're being exposed with so much information.
Yeah, information overload. I was literally just about to say that.
Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's a case of, don't get me wrong, like when information does come your way, it's taking a second to kind of process that. Or if you see something on social media that causes an emotional reaction internally, it's taking a second to process it rather than reacting to it. Because again, that's the thing as well. You know, like we as humans, we are highly emotional beings, and that can be sometimes a great thing, but it can equally be a negative thing for us in that as well. You know, like when you see a bit of information or hear something, and it, you know, causes a primal reaction within you, where it's like you're like, why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling frustrated? Why am I feeling this? And then like you have to break that down. It's like, and then beyond that, it's like, is there anything I can do? And I suppose with like things such as like anxieties and that as well, it's not as simple as obviously doing that as well. But again, it's trying to like logic, you know, reason with like these fight or flight emotions, you know, like things like when like you're feeling that kind of like stressful kind of anxiety kind of feeling in the chest, you're like trying to like talk yourself like, right, cool, like what's caused this to be, like why are you feeling anxious about this and that as well, and trying to maybe understand it a bit more and be like, all right, cool, like are you stressed out about this? Do you again having that kind of monologue with yourself a little bit, where you're just like, all right, you're maybe like, you know, dealing with, you know, people in, maybe like you're going back to work just now and working in bars, and like again, especially around the Euros, there's gonna be a lot of people in bars. People are gonna get, you know, getting drunk and that as well. People are gonna be, you know, compliant to the rules. And if you've been like, you know, locked away for a year, it's like, cool, like how am I gonna handle that? And you may feel like that anxiety that way, like, oh, maybe that's the reason why. Is like, is there anything I can do to stop that? And if it's no, it's like, all right, cool, like I suppose just let it be and see what happens there as well. Or if there's anything you can do to change it, it's like, all right, cool, like maybe I try and chat to my bosses and say that I can't work those shifts because it's a detriment to my health, and taking kind of priority and action over that as well, which is maybe still scary to do, because with that, you're opening confrontation with your boss or whatever. But even just like that seems like maybe a lot less painful in the long run than like you exposing yourself to things that is harmful for you in the long run. Yeah, just a thought.
That actually kind of brings me on to my next question. Is obviously, like we've already spoke about it, but you live in Glasgow now, which is like probably the most major city in the country. Obviously with Edinburgh as well. But is it what did that change? I mean, obviously you went there for a reason, but what did that change for you in terms of your opportunities? And is it what you expected it to be? Is I guess what I'm trying to get at.
It's not what I expected it to be, no, because again, I think nobody kind of predicted this last year and a half.
Yeah, obviously with the pandemic, yeah. my bad.
When I moved into Glasgow, the original plan was, to try and like seize opportunities, going to gigs, being present, and then trying to like, build on my network and work with people. But obviously, the elephant in the room, COVID happened, and I was back home last year from I think March to August. Came back around September and that as well, and I've been back in Glasgow ever since there. And then even then, just like everyone's been kind of dormant and not really kind of thinking of stuff. But as things are kind of opening up now in 2021, there's a lot more optimism there as well, and it's that kind of surge there as well. I've not necessarily been using my time productively in terms of aspects of trying to like source people, because everyone's been dealing with their own internal battles. But I've definitely been taking this opportunity to learn a lot more, whether that be like through reading or courses or just anything else in between, to try and add more value to myself during this time. Because again, the world stopped, and when things do come back, people are going to maybe want or need people with some newer knowledge in that as well. And I don't know, that was my thinking, like back in March, because when everything was kind of caving in, it was like focusing on the things you could control, which again, for myself at the time, it was like, cool, like I can control when I go to bed to get a good night's sleep. I can control roughly what I eat, because I moved back in with the parents for a few months. I can control like exercise, and I can control the small things that I do in my day, like I buying books, or in like I was like, all right, cool, like I can like designate some time to reading, and that's maintain like a new habit now, where like I read probably about an hour a day now.
Reading definitely made me feel better during, because obviously there was a slight difference between the first and second lockdown. It felt like there was a lot more exemptions for stuff, where the first one was the like full on 150% draconian one. But yeah, I must have. I know I'm not trying to make a weird flex here or anything, but I must have read about maybe 10 to 15 books in like a 3-4 month period, which people will have read more than that, but like for me, I usually pick one up every couple of months, get addicted to it, and then I kind of burn out, and then the cycle rehappens down the line. But I just I just felt it really peaceful. I think just because, like you said, it was especially with having the stay-at-home order, it was really in your face more than ever, the digital world, and obviously if you have like TV and stuff like that as well. I kind of just wanted to separate myself from that for at least a good 4 or 5 hours a day. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that was definitely probably the one that got me through personally the best.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well. Like, what kind of stuff were you reading more so?
I'm a big connoisseur of like true crime stuff and criminology and that. So I'd ordered a bunch at Christmas on Amazon. I always do. I always get like an Amazon gift card, so I use that on like a because a lot of books on Amazon go for dirt cheap, like £3-4. So I had about 5 sitting about. And what I also like to do is, if there's a good film or a film I've not seen before from back in the day and it's based on a book, I will go get the book, read the book, then watch the film. So I kind of did that. I was reading stuff like the life of Howard Hughes, who was the first guy to fly around the world. He broke the record for that. And he had other complications with him in Gangs of New York. I read that book about the 1800s and the draft riots of when people were being drafted into the army and all that. But yeah, I'm a big kind of historian as well, so I kind of get stimulated by the fact that reading something that actually happened, that I can actually picture, like, you know. But it's different
Yeah.
for everyone, like we say, obviously, with such as music as well.
Yeah, I mean that's it as well. With like reading and that as well, it's finding kind of areas that you kind of enjoy doing in that as well, or sometimes not. I mean, like this year I've been like reading a shit ton of stuff based off of like like human behavioral studies and stuff like that as well, or marketing. Finance is the new one as well. I'm kind of like just like focusing on in those areas just now in that as well. And what I find quite funny about books and that as well, like you're reading a book that you're enjoying and you're like, oh, this is a cool book. I think I know about marketing. And it's like, you recommend this book, and then you start reading like the follow-on book and you're just like, maybe I'm not as clear as what I thought I was. I remember it was like, again, I think I was reading Seth Godin's Marketing, and it was talking about the chasm. So again, the chasm is what they kind of refer to stuff like you get like early adopters, innovators, early adopters, and this kind of like rise up there, so the bell curve almost, and then what they call the chasm, which is essentially where all startups go to die unless they bridge out into the early majority. And if you get early majority at that point there, you then get the late majority and then the laggards. It's kind of like with like Facebook now. I think Facebook's in your late majority / laggards period now, because again, it's mostly like your grand or like your 80-year-old aunties from Florida adding you now, for the most part. Whereas like maybe like 10, 11 years ago, it was a place where it was in that kind of early majority period / early. In I think 2008 was more like your region for your early adopters and innovators there as well. And it's like anything, whether that be like band life cycles or anything there as well. It was a cool thing to go into, but like reading into like the actual main one by I think it was Graham Moore who done like the actual like book on Crossing the Chasm, it just got brutal, man. I was just like, fucking hell. It's just it's useful information, but like equally so it was just like so dense where like you end up reading like 5-6 pages and you're like, I need to like take a break because this is
I was just literally about to ask, have you ever been reading a book and read something that is so shocking to you or kind of blows your mind that you actually kind of have to put the book down and take a break for maybe like 5 minutes before delving back in?
I mean, there's been times where like it's like you've been reading stuff. I think it was Mahali's Flow, and like reading sections on that where it's just like, oh, like I've experienced this or I've related to this, and like I've had to like take a second to like to reflect on that as well. So there was a term that was also so the opposite of flow state is what they call psychic entropy, which is essentially the fact that it's like you're going against the current, and because you're resisting, your psychology then turns more towards pessimism rather than optimism in that as well, and then things begin to like fall apart by expansion. So an example would be a guy hates his job, but he needs his job to sustain money and sustain that as well. But because he hates his job, he's spending more on things that he doesn't need, so he doesn't build up a contingency saving for when things go wrong. And then his tire blows out on his way to work one day. And because he's not got the money in his account, he can't afford the tire, he can't get to work, he loses his job. Then because he loses his job, he can't afford the payments in the house, he loses the house. And then because he loses the house, like his partner
It's a chain
leaves.
reaction or destruction.
And it's a chain reaction there as well, rather than like, again, obviously like people need to work to sustain basic income for living and liabilities, but it's trying to also like work, I think, towards something that you're happy with at the time. Or even if you're not truly happy in it as well, so long as you're kind of learning stuff, like core skills that are useful to add to a later progression.
Yeah. Oh man, I had me hooked there. I was getting motivated for you speaking through that.
Yeah.
I think.
Sorry, man. I think my doorbell just went. Can you give me like 2 seconds?
Yeah. No, sweet. And here we go again.
Here we go again. On the topic of psychology and psychic entropy.
Yeah, I know. We're. I like it when we I branch off into different things. I mean, sometimes we do have to rein it back in, but I do like kind of branching off and see where the conversation goes and that. But I've got a couple more questions before we wrap it up, mate. And they're quite straightforward, but I feel like they'll be interesting to kind of freestyle on. So the first one I've got is, who are your favorite people in music, just off the top of your head?
Um, People that are doing cool shit right now. I'm a big fan of what kind of Bring Me's doing just now. Just in terms of the genre, they're doing some crazy stuff. Apart from that, though, I'm not. I like music, but there's people that like. I'm also not, not being like, oh, these guys are like the best in that as well. It's finding, I suppose, inspiration from people at different levels and doing different and cool stuff there as well. Um, I think I kind of more focus on like producers and that as well just now. Um, and Colin Britton being one of the main ones as well. Diane Lancaster. Just people like those guys and that as well. Or Stan Puro, and obviously like your classics like TLA and CLA and Eric Valentine, all the jazz. I think I kind of more focused on people's work rather than the musicianship now.
Yeah.
Again, with like diving into production and that as well, it becomes more of like, oh, that's a really cool thing, and you dived in like who produced it, and oh, I can't remember the guy's second name, but it's like Zach C. He he's done a lot of stuff with like Architects. He done Architects' new album. He done Youngblood's new album. He done some. I think he didn't bring me his new album as well. He's like a producer that's like killing it just now. Yeah, there's like so much cool music coming out that it's hard to just kind of pick.
A certain bracket. Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think it like? I think you kind of touched on it, but I think is it good? Like you said, getting viewing people from different levels of where they're at in the industry, and that is good, seeing different outlooks, and because a lot of people just kind of have their own narrow-minded outlook of themselves, and they think like everyone's probably going through the same thing. But do you like kind of seeing different scenarios and different situations to give you a more open mind for the work that you're going to do?
Yeah, man, it's cool to again have references in that as well, and because again, even with like basing things off of like your own progression, although you may not be at these rungs yet off the ladder, you're still working towards that point there as well, and it's nice to see like as you progress, where things are going or how things are taking shape, and even like listening to these different steps is like listening to their productions and being like, cool, like I really like this aspect of this song. Like, how can I maybe achieve something similar in mine? Not taking their melodies or anything, but like how like they got like the sound of a snare drum or whatever, or like their guitar tone mixed with synths and stuff like that as well. It's like, oh, that's really cool. Like how how could I do that? And like maybe like is this applicable to this song? Or and it's just, I suppose it's just kind of like collecting tools that you may use or you may leave there as well. And as long as you're kind of learning and expanding, all's good.
Amen to that, man. So, I just personally, one thing that I always remember right from being a youngster and watching some people in music. One of my favorite people is Dave Grohl. Just from this one quote that he said, and I think it kind of goes back to keeping it like legit in terms of you enjoying your work and it never becoming what you want to get away from in terms of working for working's sake, right? And he was saying, people shouldn't just do music because they're good at it. People should do music because they love it. Like he says, even if you in a band or in a garage and you're all like, playing drums, guitar, bass, vocals, and you suck, enjoy sucking together. And I always remembered that as like a really powerful quote because it always seems to be like it's like we take the fun out of everything to put it towards the kind of the success we want to get out of it, right? Like sometimes I know I'm not even immune to that, right? Like so sometimes I get not carried away, but like I think to myself, oh, there's another subscriber or there's another like on Facebook and that, and then I remember it myself as like I went into this not caring about that. I enjoy the conversations that I have with people and with my co-host and that when it's set up like that, and that's why I enjoy doing it. I feel like it's a kind of cathartic experience, and I enjoy conversation in general. But Yeah, that's a quote that's always stuck to me, to get back to my original point, and that's why I appreciate Dave Grohl. And I used to watch all his Glastonbury sets, where he used to get quite crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing of like, like that quote, it's better to like stuck together.
Mm,
I think this all falls down to our aspect of fear, with
yeah,
it's like, because you try something and it doesn't work out the first time, you think that it will never work out. And so you don't try,
yeah,
or you don't, and that, whether that be as an individual or as a team, doesn't really matter. But like, I think that's the thing as well. It's like cool, like, so long as you're enjoying sucking, if you enjoy it, eventually you'll get a little better. And it's, I think everyone thinks that it's like, oh yeah, it's doing everything for, making it a job. But like, the problem I suppose with like things that involve intellectual property is that it's not ever going to be a stable income there as well. But
mm.
one thing that it is a continual asset. This me try. I don't want to talk business with it, but like, I,
We'll just change the background to Wall Street.
sound like such a fucking like sellout dude, but like it's so funny. But like, again, it's like cool. Like the fact is, you've launched a song, you're getting kind of some streams there as well. You've made money from your mind.
Mm,
That's pretty cool shit.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah,
and
yeah,
that and so long as like you continually work on something, and you may stuck for a while, you may stuck for years. If people are still listening, um, you're you're gaining something which can go back into that as well. Which again, it doesn't really matter if you're working 20 to 40 hours a week and doing that on the side. Um, it's like the fact is like you've got that there as something that's continually coming to you on a regular basis there as well. So like things like like YouTubers getting money from like monetization and stuff like that as well, or things like Spotify or downloads, with artists. It's thinking of that and being like, cool. It's like the goal isn't necessarily you know making money to live on. It's well that'd be sick, but like
yeah, yeah.
it's
We can't lie. We can't lie through our teeth about that one.
can't, can't really lie on it. But like what's cool is the fact that it's like, regardless of whether you're earning anything or not, once you've done it and it's out there in the world, as long as people are checking it out and paying attention, um, you're essentially getting money for nothing to do what you want to do more. So again, so like as you do more and you throw more out in the world, you're building up a bigger kind of foundation of asset that could potentially support you to do things as well. So again, like as like singles come out there as well, for example, it may get to a point where it's like your monthly listener count is earning, yourself, a few £100 a month, which isn't maybe enough to like pay rent or survive on, but it's like cool, like I can maybe put this back into stuff that I
Invest
want to
in the
do,
work.
or
Yeah, yeah.
until I guess maybe to a point where like it starts earning you £1,000 a month. And even at that point there, you're like, cool, like am I happy working at this point here, or am I happy struggling on what's coming roughly on average per month,
Hmm.
and
Trying to build on it.
try building that as well. But this all falls into like taking risks as risks are within tolerance. And I
Yeah,
think everyone's risk tolerance is different, but it's definitely kind of building up
yeah.
your
Always,
tolerance. And
there's always crossroads for people. Crossroad moments, rather.
yeah, and it's like, are you willing to expand your tolerance there as well? Because yeah, I think that's the thing as well. We live in a world, in our education system's partially to blame for this, but it's all about playing safe. It's
Yeah,
all about you know learning so that you can get a good job, so that you can make money, which half gets taken out in that as well. And
hmm, it's almost like
rather,
being a
rather than,
cog in the machine, right?
partially, but like it's rather than like like again, I'm reading this book just now. It's quite a controversial book. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad,
All right, I'm gonna have to check
and
that out. You'll have to send me the Amazon link for it.
yeah, man, it's interesting. The guy basically had his own dad who was more like an education guy who was focusing on his politics around socialism or bureaucracy, whereas his friend's dad, who he kind of like used as a mentor from a young age growing up, was basically a hardcore capitalist, and it's like comparing like the
Yeah,
two mindsets in that as
polarizing
well.
ideologies, right?
Yeah, it's basically like, all right, cool. These are from the two ideologies that like I was kind of growing up around, and this is like what I tended to like lineate towards. And a book's a book, and you can take it as you wish to kind of read it. Um, but with that, it definitely kind of set clarity over thinking of the long term kind of game. With it's like cool, like if you're maybe working a part time job to make ends meet, is that part time job learning you anything that can like later down the road teach you like to expand further? So again, um, you may be like working bar, but it's like once you've kind of maybe like gained conflict resolution skills and people skills, um, you know, is that the peak of what you can learn there? And if it is, then it's like cool. Like maybe I can try do like a sales job or something, or which again people they cringe at sales, but it's like if you're maybe going into like a creative industry, unfortunately it's not about how talented you are, it's about how well you can sell
Yeah.
per se. Sell yourself essentially is what it is, or sell like what this band is. So maybe it's like, all right, cool, I'm going to do a part-time job where it involves around selling something else until I can figure out how to sell my own shit.
Yeah, keeping it relatable.
Yeah. And I think that's like even reading that, like like just now, whilst it's the summer and that as well, I'm whilst student loans are down, and whilst I'm kind of like waiting for clients, I'm working part time at Wix, the DIY store,
Oh yeah.
and I was working like again as a customer assistant. But like after reading that, I went to my bosses and I was just like, cool, like the kitchens and bathroom department are you guys looking for a salesman at all? And they were like, turns out we are. I was like, cool, like
I'll be having that.
I was because I was feeling and I was like because I was thinking of potentially putting my notice in just because I'm not feeling fulfilled in my current job role, and I feel like that role might fit me a bit more, and I can learn more skills that way. And they're like, yeah, cool, like we'll give you a call in the next couple of days and get something sorted. I'm not really necessarily caring about like the job as a title. It's more just the skills that are learned
Through
from
it,
that,
yeah.
and learning how to sell something that cool. It's kitchens and bathrooms. Like there's the it's not like amazing, but like it's like cool. Like if you can sell that, like you can then sell
You can
what
take
you're
that
passionate about.
into what you're doing on the music side and how you can sell that better.
Yeah.
Quality, man.
Um.
I like that way of thinking. But
So like, again, yeah.
so
Sorry.
sorry. Continue. Yeah, I've interjected a couple times. So
Yeah. But that's like again what some of the book was kind of going into. It's like cool. Like fair enough if you have to work and that as well, but like it's continually thinking long term about how to build your skills or in long term your assets so that you're not just getting income and expenses, or as you gain more money you gain liabilities, things like a mortgage, your car finance, and that as well that come out there as well. It's finding like equally alongside like your liability column, you put your asset column there as well, and building that up so that that covers elements of your royalties there as well, and sorry, your liabilities and your expenses, so that although you're earning the same amount of money by working, it's that is covering more of your baseline kind of wealth there as well. So like you're not needing to worry necessarily about money to the same degree. Because I think that's the thing as well. It's people's like fear over money, or more specifically, fear for losing money, is a massive thing there as well. And I'm talking about this based off the perspective of the book and not off of my idealism in that as well. I'm still, very open to, situation in that as well. But I think so, like unlearning certain things that we've been kind of taught and trying to expand our knowledge on both sides is an interesting thing to expand and take your own thought with.
definitely gives you more tools for sure. So two last uh, simple ones. We definitely went in depth on that last one, like we said
Yeah.
beforehand. I just want you to describe me. I'll let you um just say what you feel on this. What overall does music mean to you as a person?
Expression, I would say. I think whenever I'm working with somebody or whenever I'm trying to work on my own stuff, it's making sure that the emotional essence or the vibe is captured. Whether it's a song about, you know, drinking and partying, fair enough. It's like we need to like maintain that storyline. It's like cool. Like when I was working on Rowan's Heaven, I think when we first were like, all right, cool. Like when you hear the song in your head, where do you imagine it being played? It's like, oh yeah, I can imagine it being played at like a house party. And I was like, oh, like we kind of like got talking about like that as a situation where I was like, all right, cool. Like almost like it's like 2 a.m. You're playing this live. The police are on their way upstairs to like knock the door down at the gaff, and you're like, this is our last song. It's gonna be short, sweet, and it's gonna be it's dumb. And like as like you're like playing like the outro, like cops burst down the door, you know, creating like that, like just like that visual kind of vibe. And people might not necessarily get that true essence of what we're kind of talking about in that situation, but it's like by kind of having like that expectation, you set the bars to like where you want to go with it. And again, there is obviously like a lot of stuff that's just like written for the sake of like this is a solid arrangement, and that's equally cool. But I definitely feel like trying to capture an emotional essence of whatever it is you're capturing, whether it shows an emotion of frustration, joy, happiness, or just, you know, whatever you want to capture, so long as the message is there and it's true to what the artist's vision is, it's all good.
Top stuff, man. Last one, mate. What are your plans going forward for the music?
Retire.
This is the last one. It was an announcement all along.
That's it. So yeah, announcement. Again, at the moment, as things are kind of opening up, it's just trying to get my name more out there just now. Working alongside some people. The Dead Sapien stuff's taking a little bit of a break just now, but I'm planning on doing some more work on some stuff in July and try to, you know, get stuff, get the ball rolling again with like single number 3. I have got like 3 songs in the bank, but it's just like figuring out which one I want to do so that I can work on and get that kind of sounding even better than the other 2 there as well. Subjectively from a production standpoint, that means. But yeah, just focusing on that and the stuff I can't control. Yeah, it's, I think, yeah, getting people in. I'm kind of in this transitional point at this point now where production's cool and I like it, and it's cool working on songs, but wherever the kind of wind takes me as I progress, it'll do so. So again, like I'm reading a lot on you know, marketing, business, and finance alongside the music. I may end up going down that role as well as opportunity presents itself. So we just have to wait and see, I suppose, you know. But so long as I suppose that, you know, you're working towards something within the relevant field there as well. And again, I think these last kind of few months I've maybe like lost sight of a bit of clarity, and yeah, it's just kind of learning and
growing, man. Look, mate, always enjoy talking to you, man. I appreciate the time again today. We'll have to the next time you're up, or maybe the studio can come down to Glasgow. We'll have to do a part 2 sometime in the future. But just before we go, do you want to plug any of your music avenues, social medias that people that are maybe unfamiliar with you can go follow if they watch this?
Oh snap! Let me get my phone. There's also
no
production.
worries, man. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
Yeah, one sec. I'll it's literally on my bed. One sec.
Yeah, 2 secs.
Got the list here.
Yeah.
So obviously there's if you want to do any production work for myself, it's www.CameronSimpsonProductions.com. You can find, you know, my website there, and you can get in touch that way for like, you know, consultation. The Dead Sapien stuff is just on obviously Facebook or Twitter. You know, Dead Sapien. Instagram is just Dead Sapien altogether. That's DeadSapien. And I think on Twitter it's because I couldn't claim the name, someone already took it.
Same with the Northeast Corner, man.
I was like, God damn it, Twitter! Like, why'd you gotta play like that, you know? So Twitter is dead_sapien, and I'm also on YouTube and that as well. Yeah, yeah, that's
Spotify,
mostly it.
Spotify as well. Dead Sapien on Spotify.
Spotify, yeah. If you follow me in that as well, you get to hear the third single when it drops on your release radar. So, yeah, that would be massively
And
appreciated.
also the Dead Sapien podcast, which I enjoy listening to.
Oh
So
snap! Yeah, there is a Dead Sapien
I've got
podcast.
you, got you covered, man.
So much shit going on, so much shit, but it's all there. And I think I've got a couple episodes lined up for the Dead Sapien podcast too, within the next kind of month and that as well. So yeah,
Sweet.
all those avenues. If you wish to check them out, it would be highly appreciated. And thank you.
Appreciate the time as always, dude. Cheers.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Glad to be on, and take care. Bye.
This podcast is also available on Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocketcasts, RadioPublic, and Spotify.